What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be making another Smash Bros video. We're going to be ranking the Smash Bros items. This is a tier list I've been wanting to do a video on for quite a bit. I don't know how many people care about items in Smash Bros. I mean, I don't really mind playing with items depending on the game, honestly, so guess we'll just have to wait. We'll just have to see what happens with this. So I'm going to be ranking all the items based on, you know, how fun they are to use and stuff. So yeah. Alright, let's get this started. Starting this off with the bumper. I think it's just called a bumper. But yeah. This bumps you around the stage. If you hit it, you go out flying. It really depends on the placement, but man, this item is kind of funny, but I think a B tier is good enough for that. Please beware, I don't know all the items in the game. I'm not that type of Smash person, so yeah. Next up we have is I think it's just called a staff, I believe. Yes, a staff. It's a quick weapon that shoots very far and hits enemies pretty quickly. So, yeah, it's a nice one, but it doesn't really do a lot of damage, so B tier. The lightning from Mario Kart. A lot of these are references, I know. Basically, if you grab this, you'll two things can happen. You shrink, or the other players will shrink. Pretty much what the lightning does. So it's a 50-50 with this item. It's definitely one of the more interesting items for sure, so B tier. Hopefully I don't put a lot of B tier. Next up we have is the Master Ball. I guess I'll rate the Pokeball. Basically summon a Pokemon. I might do a tier list ranking the Pokemon in the Smash Bros series, how cool they are to use, but I will put both of these in A tier at least. But I will have a ranking. Maybe I'll do a ranking video of all the Pokemon balls in Smash Bros. Next up we have is the Maximum Tomato. Basically, this gives you, I believe, 50. Gives you 50 HP, I believe. So yeah, definitely a pretty useful item to have. I don't know how people feel about healing items, but it's very useful for sure. Next up we have is the Star Rod from Kirby. Shoot some stars from this, and honestly, it's one of my favorite power-ups in this game. I don't know if this goes in S tier, but I don't care. I love this power-up a lot for some reason. Alright, next up we have is, I don't remember what this is called, the Beetle. If you throw this at an item, they go flying into the sky, you have to break free in order to actually not die from it. Definitely a pretty cool power, interesting power, can go either way. Next up we have is the Ball Bombs. Basically, it's a ball bomb, you throw it, it explodes, and it could instantly kill you, so be aware. A tier. Next up we have is, I just saw this, I have like a file, I have like a file open of all the item names in case I forgot some of them. I know I saw this somewhere, hold up. But basically it's another bomb that travels pretty much on the ground of the stages. Bombchu, yeah, that's what it's called. So yeah, it's basically like a ball bomb, but it travels across the stage. So yeah, A tier. I'm going to be ranking these power-ups in the wrong way, I know it. Next up we have is a pretty popular item in the Smash Bros. Series. Basically, you throw something and an item can pop out of it most of the time. It's honestly a really cool power-up. It's actually pretty cool, honestly. It's one of the more mainstay power-ups, for sure. So I think a solid B tier, because it won't really do much damage. Next up we have is, I believe this is the Deku Nuts, I believe it's called. Basically, if you throw it, the enemies will get dizzy. If you throw it at opponent, of course. So yeah, oh man, we're gonna have a lot of items to go through, oh gosh. Alright, B tier. Next up we have is the Heart Container. Gives you 100 HP this time, which is honestly pretty good. So yeah, definitely a really good power-up to have as well. Next up we have is the Parasol. I'm guessing the Parasol from Smash Bros. Melee. I almost forgot that was a thing. Yeah, it's just a Parasol, nothing too crazy. D. Why did it show Kirby on there, but I don't know. Next up we have is the Bunny Hood, which makes you jump really high in the air and also go really, really fast. Really cool power-up, but depending on the scenario you're in, A tier. Next up we have is Mr. Saturn, a pretty classic one for sure. It may not do much if you're trying to hurt opponents, but if you do have your shield open, it will break it if you use Mr. Saturn, of course. So yeah, B tier. But I put A because it's pretty rare to get. Next up we have is the Party Box, I believe what it's called. Basically, you throw this, you get some items, you get some food, or you can get some other power-ups. This is a pretty useful one, depending on what you get. Next up we have is the POW Block. I'm surprised it took it till Smash Bros. 4 to actually use this, but basically it's a POW block Basically shakes the whole stage and hurts opponents. It's a pretty cool one. I like it. Next up we have is the Red Shell. This only appeared in Smash Bros. 64, I think. Basically, Red Shell just follows you. It's pretty simple. So yeah, A tier. I'm really shocked this never came back, honestly. But I guess because we have another shell we're going to be talking about eventually. Next up we have is the Tanuki Leaf. This is a funny one to see your favorite characters wear the Tanuki suit, because Nintendo will never do that in actual games besides Smash. Yeah, you basically just fly for a short period of time. It's a cool idea, I like it, but it's nothing too crazy with other power-ups, so B tier. Above B, I guess. Next up we have is the Rage Blaster. Basically, you shoot a little projectile that does a decent amount of damage. It's pretty cool, honestly, so B tier. Next up we have is the Home Run Bat. This is a pretty iconic power-up in the Smash Bros. Series. Basically, you swing your bat, you can kill opponents instantly, basically, if you get the home run. S tier. Next up we have is the popular Assist Trophy. This, depending on the Assist Trophy you get, I will definitely make a ranking video on the Assist Trophies for sure, so I think a solid A tier will be good enough for it. Next up we have, oh, this one shocked me when I saw this, the Galaga thing, Boss Galaga. Man, I need to play that game again. Basically, it takes opponents in the air. If you don't shake out quick enough, you will die. I love this one a lot, and I played this game a ton as a kid. Next up we have is the Bullet Bill. Basically, you blast super fast and basically try to hit opponents. It's basically how a Bullet Bill acts. It's so quick. Alright, not bad. Next up we have is money. I mean, you're collecting money, you get some cash. I guess it depending on the game you play. C tier though, I'm sorry. Next up we have is the item containers, something like that. I think it's just a crates or party box depending on the game you're playing. Basically, if you throw it, you will technically try to get some items. There's usually items in there, or they can just roll on the ground like in some games like Smash Bros. Brawl, which is pretty cool. So I think an S tier is good enough for it. Next up we have is, oh, this. I know what this is called, but it's gonna take me a bit to find it. But basically, the Daybreak parts, that's what it is. Basically, put these parts together, you shoot a huge ass laser, try to kill opponents. It's so cool, so satisfying to hit too. Oh, excuse me. My nose is not the best right now, so please bear with me. I just got back from a vacation, so that's how this recording at least. Alright, now we have I think it's the dragon parts, something like that. 3 parts, you try to kill opponents very quickly. Honestly, S tier as well. Next up we have is the fan for Smash Bros. Brawl. This was always a toxic power-up for sure. Basically, you just spam with the A button to do as much damage as you can. You can't really move or anything. It's insane, but to be honest, I'm glad it didn't return. Next up we have is the Freezies from Smash Bros. We see these pretty often. You freeze opponents in the ice and try to do as much damage to them. A tier. The Green Shell! Basically, you throw a shell, try to do as much damage. It's pretty much like how a Green Shell acts in the Mario Kart series, so not much to say about this one. But it's an A tier because it does a lot. Next up we have, oh, this one. Basically, you try to blow your opponents off the stage, and they wouldn't be able to recover. Yeah, definitely one of the more interesting power-ups they used, for sure, so yeah, I think a B tier because it can be annoying, but it also could if you're very lucky to just grab it, I guess. So yeah, it just depends, I guess. Next up we have is this bomb. I forgot the name of it, but basically it shoots in 4 directions depending on where you throw it, and it does quite a bit of damage too. So yeah, pretty cool. Next up we have is the mini mushroom. I also rank the regular mushroom as well. Yeah, basically, you shrink, you gotta run away. F tier. Next up we have, I guess I'll rank them regular mushroom. You grow big to do as much damage as you can. A tier. I have no idea what this is. This seems different. It could be from a different side mode. I'll just put... If anyone has an idea what that is, let me know in the comments. Because I am stumped. Oh. Hello? Thank you. What the... Alright. I hit cap locks on accident, that's why. Alright. Just gonna put a question mark. Next up, this, which makes your characters breathe fire, do a decent amount of damage. I honestly really like it. This one's pretty cool and pretty hot, I must say, in both ways. Not really. Next up we have is the blue shell. Like the blue shell of Mario Kart series, this will follow you, take a little bit, and then it hurts you and do a lot of damage. It's very easy to roll out of it, at least. So, yeah, definitely really cool power. A tier for sure. Next up we have is these springs. These never returned after Smash Bros. I think Smash 4, I believe. But basically, you can bounce on the springs, or it can push you off the edge. So yeah, B tier. It can either be annoying or really cool. You never know. Next up we have is the Smash Bros. Ball itself. I gotta put this in S tier. Regardless of which character has the best Final Smash or not, it's always fun to really get these, for sure. I did a ranking based on all the Final Smashes way back in 2022, if you want to see that. Opinion could change, by the way. Next up, I believe, is this the, the papers, I believe, or whatever, from, Smash Bros. Brawl. You collect these to try to get some nice little references to characters, which is nice. Alright. I guess I'll also rank the fake Smash Bros. Ball. Basically, if you hit it, it will explode. It's a funny way to... It's easy to tell, by the way, kinda, if it is a fake Smash Ball, but still, it's kind of funny that he did this. Next up we have is the Star. You're invincible, and try to do as much damage as you can. Yeah, pretty cool. Next up we have is the Fire Flower. Basically, you shoot a little fire out of it instead of just shooting fireballs like Mario and Luigi do. And yeah, try to do a decent amount of damage. This is a pretty cool one. I like the concept of it. Putting a lot in A tier. So yeah. Next up we have is the Launch Star. This is a power that launches you into the sky, or depending on where you go. I'm surprised it took this long for Smash Bros. To get a Galaxy reference as an item. But it's nothing too crazy compared to the other items, so C tier. Next up we have is food. You eat food to get a decent amount of percent. So yeah, but there's obviously better healing items. Oh boy, this is going to be a long video, isn't it? Next up we have is the shield. Basically, it protects you from behind. That's basically what this is. B tier. Gonna try to go through this pretty quickly because, oh my god, I have a lot of items to go through. The banana peel! Did Donkey Kong really drop these? He does it all the time. You run over the banana peel, you slip, so be aware. It's a B tier. Next up we have is the honeycomb, I believe. Or beehive, I guess. You throw it, you have bees on you. Not the bees! It's really annoying power for sure, though. So B. Next up we have is, oh boy, this one. The Blast Box. You hit this multiple times, it explodes. Be aware. This can go either way depending on the situation. The trophies, which is the collectible in Smash Bros. Brawl. Pretty cool, honestly. I really love these. I love these more than just spirits, in my opinion. So yeah. Oh man, my nose. I'm almost done, thankfully. Next up we have is the Cracker Launcher. This is a power that's so broken in Brawl. You aim with this power to do a lot of damage. I can see why this never returned at all, so B tier. Can't be tricky to control if you're first using it, though. Next up we have is, that thing from Smash 4. Basically just get more buff stats and stuff. Yeah, C tier, sorry. Next up we have, this one. I know. It's basically when you have 100%, you can kill enemies quickly if you do a forward smash. It's that good. It's called Def Scythe, something like that. It's a crazy power for sure. Next up we have is the drill move, the drill power up. Basically, you throw this, it's a drill that could actually kill you if you're not careful. B tier for sure. Next up we have is the, this. I believe if you throw this at an opponent, you can get a bunch of health, is what this is. So yeah, it's a very, very rare power-up to have. Next up we have is the Fire Bar Sword, basically what this is called. Fire Bar, I guess. Basically a sword that's just made of fire. Not much to say about this one. A tier. Next up we have is the Super Hammer. Basically, you got this hammer, try to do as much damage as you can, but there is also a chance you may not hit them. It's hammer. So B tier. I'll also rate the other hammer, which is based on Donkey Kong. It really depending because the top of the hammer could fall off, so can go either way with this one. So B tier. Next up is the Gooey Bomb. Basically, it explodes if you're not careful. It can stick on you, basically. So yeah, definitely a power you gotta be on the lookout for. Next up we have is, I don't know what this is called. Basically, if you see one of these on the ground, you can't pull it and just get a different item. So yeah, pretty cool, honestly. I really gotta get through this quickly. Next up is this. Oh god, this thing. Basically, if you hit, it shoots projectile every once in a while. If you hit it, it can go in a different direction. Very annoying power-up. Next up we have is this sword. There's so many swords. You can do a lot of damage with this. Just a basic sword, nothing too crazy. Next up we have is the metal box. I'm gonna try to go through this fast. Basically, your metal. Basically, you won't get hurt much. So, A tier, I guess. Next up we have is the Ore Club. Yeah, that's what it's called. Basically, it's a huge sword that creates some wind if you're not careful. It's a really, really good one, honestly. Next up we have is this from Smash Bros. Melee. Basically, it's you're basically invisible. So yeah, but it can go either way with this power up. So C tier. Another power-up that's been in the Smash series for a bit is this one, the Pitfall. You stay stuck on the ground. You throw it, it's on there. If you walk over it, you're stuck on the ground for a bit, so B tier. Next up we have is, this one, Ramble Weaving Mushroom. Basically, your controls will be reversed, so you gotta be very careful. It's kind of another annoying power-up. Alright, next up we have is, oh boy, I don't know what this is called, but basically you can stay, it's like the Tanuki tail, you can stay up in the air for a little bit. Nothing with this one. Next up we have, not C tier, B. Next up is the Sandbag. If you hit it multiple times, you could get some items. It's a classic power-up for sure. Oh boy. Alright, next up we have is Motion Sensor Bomb. If you walk over this, sort of like snakes, down B, I guess, sort of, it will explode, so be careful. Alright, another power-up that's been around the Smash series for a very long time is this one, the Smart Bomb. Basically, if you throw it, it creates a huge wave of bombs. It's definitely a very, very cool one. It's very iconic. The Soccer Ball, you can't pick it up, but if you hit it, you can turn it to fire. You make it turn to fire. Pretty rare one. Next up, we have is the Special Flag. If you're playing Smash with stock, you get extra stock. So, yeah, very, very, very rare power for sure to use. Next up we have is this thing from Melee where it just spins and next up we have is the Banana Gun. Legit a gun, but it's banana. Missed opportunity to have the coconut gun, to be honest, but after you use it, you can also use a banana peel. I really love this. This is funny as hell. Next up we have is a barrel. Just like the containers, you throw it, it rolls, but you can also get some items out of it, so S tier. Probably biased because it's not a Donkey Kong reference, but it's still cool. Another sword, holy shit. basically does a lot of damage. It has a nice cool effect, so yeah. A tier. Baseball, you throw it, it turns invisible, and you can try to hit opponents. A tier. Next up, the black hole. It sucks up opponents up there. It's a nice idea, but B tier. Next up we have is this bomb from the Kirby series. Basically, it can walk for a bit, and it could explode. The Bomber, that's what it's called. Interesting idea for sure. Boomerang! You throw it as a boomerang, just like how Boomerang works. I'm not a really big fan of this one. Next up we have is, oh god, chickens, the Cuckoo. You throw it, chickens will try to chase you. Very annoying power-up as well. Next up we have is, this one, the Franklin Badge, which protects you from projectiles. So, really cool power-up, but again, it's another rare power-up, not C tier, A tier. Oh, excuse me. Next up we have is, I don't know what this is called, but basically you throw it, Healing Field, a huge barrier which makes you heal. So yeah, very rare one for sure. Next up we have is the Healing Sprout, which also heals you as well if you try to hold on for it for a good amount of time. Next up we have is another iconic power-up. It's Olimar's ship. Basically launches in the air, and it's gonna come down and try to hit you, so be careful. Hothead from Super Mario World. Travels on the ground and try to do as much damage as you can. Definitely really love this one. Next up we have is, I believe this is called Lipstick, right? Yeah, Lipstick. It's not like, you know what, from makeup, but it's basically you throw it, you have a flower on your head, so yeah. I think a solid B tier. It is a very annoying power-up though. Next up we have is the Ray Gun. This is another power that's been around for a long time. Shoots a little projectile of a gun. Shoot little bullet from it, so that's nice, but not a lot of damage. Next up we have, oh man, I'm almost done, thank god. I don't remember this one. Screw Attack, yeah. Like Samus's Screw Attack in the Metroid series. Every character can do this. It's a really cool one. Next up we have is the Super Scope. hold it for a huge shot that can kill you, and also just spam it if you want to. Next up we have is the this clock. I don't know what the specifically is called, but basically if you grab it, the timer, you will either slow down or opponents will slow down. So B tier. Next up we have is the Steel Driver. Basically a little gun that shoots kind of slow, but it's a nice idea. Next up is this, which is also another healing power for Smash Bros. Brawl, but I don't remember it healing you that much, so B tier. Next up we have okay, Urien. Basically, you throw it, it's a spike ball that can do a lot of damage, A tier. And last but not least, the Warp Star. You fly up in the air, do a lot of damage. This took 20 minutes to make this, but we finally ranked all the Smash Bros. Items. Oh my gosh. Oh man, this is gonna be a long one for sure, but I'm glad I finally did this, so yeah, thank you guys for watching. What's your favorite item in the Smash Bros. Series, if you play Smash Bros. With items? Let me know in the comments below. Later, folks.